Okay, well, thanks for coming this afternoon. We like to be prompt. We're just a couple minutes late. But first thing I'll do is introduce the gentleman I have up here with me. This is Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney Scott Drabenstadt. How do you pronounce it? Drabenstadt. Sorry about that. My apologies. It's Major Wes Parks. He's over our Detective Division. This is Detective Dan Goldberg, who actually did all the work on this. I just get to stand up and take the credit. But I just wanted to outline a significant search, seizure, and arrest this morning. You know, we hear a lot about the violence associated with crime in their city, but every day we get contacted by victims of crime, property crime, that they take very seriously, and we do too. This case started about almost a year ago by our detectives. We were being hit hard by people stealing catalytic converters from vehicles throughout J-Town. So our detectives mounted an investigation that involved a lot of surveillance, a lot of man hours, and there's a lot that they put into this investigation. Well, this morning at 0400, they gathered here and got prepared to go out and try to locate the people that we've now arrested and serve 4 state search warrants. And I'll give this to you in writing after the briefing, but the locations of the search warrants were 316 Downs Lane, which is out near Strawberry and Southside Drive, 6301 Southside Drive, and 10,007 Dixie Highway, which is a storage facility where these people had 3 storage units there. The main guy in this case is Redzep Bogdanovic, and these are all Bosnians. Redzep was arrested at 6301 Southside Drive. His wife, Tahira Osmanovic, was arrested as well. Her brothers, Elvis Osmanovic and Elvar Osmanovic. Is that Oz or Boz?
It's Osmanovic.
Okay. And then the mother of Tahira, Elvis, and Elvar Brankika Osmanovic, was served with an arrest citation. She was not taken into custody, but the other 3 were. They were charged with a number of different crimes that I'll let Scott talk about in a second. But this case involves, we often hear about, well, you get the low-hanging fruit. Well, we consider these to be high-level violators that were responsible for hundreds of catalytic converters that have been stolen throughout Jefferson County and sold outside of Jefferson County. So this is a significant event, and that's why we left the catalytic converters outside in the van. That's where we found them this morning. We're estimating there's about 170 to 200 catalytic converters in that van. That van was located in the garage at 6301 Southside Drive. That's the home of Redzep. We also, I said, we executed search warrants, one on a bank where we seized close to $100,000. We also seized from the storage units a Mercedes, about $10,000 in cash, gold jewelry, and other items. So in one scenario I'll describe, there was a catalytic converter stolen out of Jeffersontown, and we had good video of the person that had stolen the catalytic converter, but did not identify him, didn't know who he was. Well, just several hours later, he was seen, surveilled, going to 316 Downs Lane, where he then sold that catalytic converter to Redzep. So this is how we envision it happened. People were going out, and you can see from the instruments we have up here, using saws to cut catalytic converters. They would then take them 10, 15 at a time to the address on Downs Lane where they would sell them. And then he would accumulate the catalytic converters as you see outside, and then he would take them to a buyer, which is located outside of Jefferson County. And I'm not going to get too involved with that because we're working with the state police and others trying to make additional arrests and carry this case further. So to date, we've made 4 arrests. We've seized the cash that I've described. We also have, and I'll show you this after I speak, but we have a document. We seized a bunch of documents. There's one document here that I'll show you where it appears as though they've sold over 100 catalytic converters, and it's got the price that they received for those catalytic converters, we think, next to the numbers. So they kept really good, meticulous bank records, actually. They're crude, but they kept good records. Some of those catalytic converters were sold for anywhere from $830 to $1,000 to $281. So it all depended upon which catalytic converter they were selling. But again, that just shows the pattern, the history of this organization and the amount of catalytic converters that they were selling. We're going through these records quickly, and it appears as though there was about $180,000 in receipts for just a 3 or 4 month period. So this is a major organization. And just as important, it's a major pain to the citizens of Jeffersontown. If you can imagine, maybe some of you have had your catalytic converter stolen, but it's a real pain. And it costs the person that owns the vehicle over $1,000 and up to get that catalytic converter fixed or replaced. So I'm really proud of the work that our detectives have done. This has been going on for months, culminating this morning. And I especially want to thank Scott, who I've known for years. You wouldn't know that by the way I butchered his name. But he's been working with us throughout this whole investigation. So Scott, thank you from our department. And he'll be the one that will be prosecuting these people. With that, I'll let Scott speak, and then we'll turn it over to questions.
Thank you, Chief. Basically, I was brought in on this by Detective Goldberg with one thief, the indictment of one thief, and the initiation of the prosecution against one thief led to the discovery of other information linking to this syndicate, this network, and the plans are in place to indict these individuals and to prosecute them fully for their activities in promoting theft throughout Jefferson County and affecting J-Town as well as the whole Louisville metro area. It is well known in law enforcement that pretty much every day there are multiple catalytic converter thefts that take place in the greater Louisville metro area. These items are generally stolen by individuals that are seeking to sell them for cash, to then utilize that for drug purchases. The catalytic converters themselves are then sent out to be recycled, and it's just a big chain that encourages and promotes all kinds of criminal activity, not just directly related to the individual who has their car damaged and great expense and pain having to deal with a simple theft. There are big connections, and I really applaud the detectives with the J-Town Police Department that went out of their way and really had to go to great lengths and great measures to develop the intelligence that led to this kind of a large-scale arrest and detention and knocking out a big group involved in a lot of theft. And there will be an indictment coming down, and we'll proceed with the prosecution. So I thank J-Town, I thank the detectives.
Questions?
How many arrests were there? Because the release you guys sent, it said 6, right?
I'm sorry?
5 arrests, 1 cited.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. There was also a Zilhad Khalik, is that how you pronounce it?
Zilhad College.
College, who was arrested. So yes, you're right. There were a total of 6. One was a citation arrest, and that was Brankika Osmanovich, who is the mother of Tahira, Elvis, and Elvar.
Yes, sir.
Elver. So 5 taken to the Hall of Justice and 1 arrested on paper only.
In some cases, you have those catalytic converters that are taken from cars and people don't even know it. Did you find that with this investigation, that some of the victims didn't know it for a few days?
Well, we see that in our daily routine where we go out and make it a report that, you know, they'll wake up in the morning and start their car and they'll hear it and know it's different, and then they'll do their due diligence and find that it's been stolen. The one I described, though, you know, oftentimes we will get video from the business or the residents that shows someone stealing the catalytic converter. But that's the middle of the night, and we don't get the video for, you know, the next day or so. So it's really hard to identify who those people are. But as I said, in one case, we saw a person stealing the catalytic converter here in Jeffersontown. He went out to Downs Lane just a few hours later, dressed exactly the same, and sold the catalytic converter to this organization. Now, what our detectives will do now is try to find the victims that were victimized by these people and put those things together, but that's still ongoing. But as you can see from the white van outside, I was shocked to see the amount of catalytic converters that they had. So I think they were probably putting those in the van, ready to take them to where they sell them, and it was going to bring thousands upon thousands of dollars. But unfortunately, there's a victim out here that's having to spend a couple of thousand to put their catalytic converter back on.
You spoke about how there was 5 people arrested, 1 cited, but in that example that you said, you know, there are a lot of individuals that take part in this. They cut the catalytic converters off and then they go to, like for this example, to that home and sell it. Do you anticipate more arrests?
Yes, we do anticipate more arrests. And again, you have to think about this. These detectives have been out for months surveilling this organization. Well, that's a difficult tasking because you've got to be able to be there and see what's going on without being detected. So now that we have these arrests, we will now go and try to identify others that were actually bringing the catalytic converters, and also, more importantly, who was buying these converters. That's huge. Without a buyer, then these thieves wouldn't have anywhere to unload the catalytic converters.
You said that, you know, they have receipts for like $180,000 in like a 3 or 4 month span. Like how much in total, like how long do you think they've been doing this?
Well, they've been doing, we know, for months. So, you know, they've accumulated a lot of wealth doing this. Again, we just now have the records from where they received and then transferred the property to the buyer. So we're now trying to put together how much they paid for them, how much they sold them for, to try to come up with exactly how much was profited during that time.
When it comes to the buyers, anybody, we're even talking scrap yards here. I mean, how likely is it that if someone does come with these converters, that it is stolen, as far as just trying to nip this in the bud earlier from the buyer's perspective?
Well, it's something we're looking at, and we're working with Frankfurt to try to get legislation passed where, they have to ask the tough questions, because it's pretty easy for somebody to walk in and sell one of these things, no questions asked, where if we had a law in place where they had to identify and keep inventory of how many they purchased. I mean, to me, it's pretty much common sense. If somebody comes in with 20 catalytic converters, if I'm the buyer, I'm going to question them where they came from and make certain that this is legitimate. But there are a lot of people out there that aren't doing that, so hopefully we'll get some legislation passed that will require that.
I know there's been some local ordinances proposed to basically prohibit that in the situation. Would that be something that you would be for?
Absolutely.
How do you all go about, matching these catalytic converters up to cars that were stolen? Are you guys going to ask those who may have experienced it to come down or something?
Well, unlike an antique weapon or something that's clearly identifiable, most people don't know what their catalytic converter looks like. And to my knowledge, there are no numbers on them to.
Not identifiable, no. Just
Yeah, so that's difficult, actually. But we're trying to put those pieces together as we speak.
I know there's been ways talked about to prevent, from an owner's perspective, just to be more careful. I've read things like writing your license plate number on it or buying something where you can cover it, but that's kind of costly in itself. What do you best recommend residents to do as we see these numbers track up?
Well, the first thing we ask is number one, that they pull their vehicle in the garage if they have a garage available. What we're seeing also, we've worked the last week or two, a number of vehicles that have been, I don't say broken into, they've gained entry because the cars were unlocked, and guns coming out of those cars, and it's mostly juveniles doing it. So as far as a catalytic converter, I haven't gotten under my car and done that, so most people are not going to do that. So that's why it's important that when these men and women go out and spend hours on surveillance and finally catch these people doing it, that the courts take it seriously. And I know Scott does, because he's been working with us for months on it.
Do you think these guys, could you talk about the danger element, the suspects?
Well, we've talked about this before, Stefan. What I see is guns, drugs, and violence all usually go together. So this is indicative. These people had access to weapons. I'm not saying they used them during the commission of these crimes, but typically when we do, especially in drug cases, there's usually a number of weapons there as well.
What about the Sawzall? That's a specific tool that they use for the catalytic converters. Was there only, do you know how many of those they had?
That's it, but these guys also weren't stealing catalytic converters, to our knowledge, best of our knowledge,
Yeah.
they were the purchasers themselves.
These are more the mid-level people that were buying them from those that were stealing them. That's not to say they didn't get under a car and steal a couple, but again, the Sawzall is a tool that's typically used, and it just takes seconds or minutes to get under a car and cut these things off.
So you guys are looking for a lot
Right.
more people.
Yeah, this investigation is going to continue, but I'm really pleased with the work that they've done. And with Scott's assistance, I think we'll put together a good case on, and again, this is not low-hanging fruit. These are major violators.
Do you feel like that a group like this is unique to Louisville, or do you expect that, there's probably a lot of people doing the same thing? Given how many catalytic converters are being stolen, is it possible that that problem may decrease now that these people are arrested, or are you expecting, hey, there's a lot of people out here doing this thing?
Well, number one, I hope they stay in jail, and that will eliminate their thievery and buying these things. But, it's like a drug cartel. I mean, just because we take off a cartel, the drugs don't stop, being sold. But it certainly has an effect on it. And, I think that this is a major organization. And you can just see from I mean, I've never seen that many catalytic converters in one location. So, yeah, I think they've taken off a major organization.
Chief, is there any particular model, brand of car that is most susceptible to having a catalytic converter stolen?
From what we're hearing through our investigation, the most popular one is the Toyota Prius. Not saying there's not other ones, but it's the number one from what I've heard.
But you look at those outside, and they're from all makes and models. I'm not letting Dan speak very much. He's been up since 3:30, and I'm afraid he'll say something.
Were some of these taken from car dealers?
We do have thefts from car dealers, and again, Stefan, we're trying to identify where these came from. The one that we saw him take to the Downs Lane, was that a residence or a?
That was from a hotel, sir. Over
Okay.
on One Speed.
You talked about this leading to other crimes and being a part of that problem in the metro area. What other type of crimes are we talking?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
You said like it's part of a bigger crime problem.
Well,
how does this extend?
Yeah, the only knowledge I have right now on these people is that they were doing catalytic converters. I'm just saying in general, crime in general, that, typically, as Scott referenced, typically when you see petty or property theft, oftentimes it's driven by drug addiction or something to that effect. I don't know this, I haven't investigated it, but I think these were in it for the profit. So every crime is a little bit different, but I think these people are in it for the profit, and the amount of money that they've made is evidence of that.
How much we've seen a lot of more abandoned vehicles just on the side of roads, how much is that playing a part into it? It's basically telling people, like, get your car towed, don't just leave it out, because, I'm sure that plays a part as well.
Yeah, I'm sure that might play a part, but if you think about it, there's cars going by, pretty routinely. Typically, to Dan's point, hotels where people have parked their car overnight, at their residence, at their business. Our business in our business park, they've been hit real hard, and it's typically from commercial vehicles that have been left there overnight, and they just discover the next morning that these catalytic converters have been stolen. Okay, thank you, and again, we'll leave the van open out there. That's the evidence, how big these people were in this, and I hope that it makes our citizenry happy that we have, because we hear all the time, when are you going to catch these guys? Well, we've shut down a major organization, I think. Thanks.